Can Oregon State and can they tinkle? Can they beat Arizona in Corvallis tonight?
Can they cover the 18-point spread?
No. Can they win the game?
Arizona?
Can they win the? No. Zero chance. Zero. Right?
They wasted 5 seconds. Jordan Pope for the win. Oh! Oh!
So much for that zero chance. Welcome to Goodman versus Gottlieb. Thursday, Friday afternoon edition.
Right.
And it's a little rough for me, Doug, because my alma mater goes down to Tinkle, and it's my last show in our city in Charleston. So a little disappointing. What do you make of the Arizona Wildcats that are now in third place in the Pac-12, tied, Doug, with Arizona State and Stanford? In the final year of the Pac-12, this has become actually kind of intriguing.
No, the whole league is actually interesting, right? Like, Kyle Smith loses his best player to Villanova, loses DJ Rodman to USC, and they're kind of sitting there as the surprise team in the league. Colorado, now that they're healthy, appears to be a completely different club than the one that was ran off the floor in Tucson. And yeah, Arizona, who people thought would kind of flex their muscles on this league, has not done it. And then, let's give credit to Oregon State. What they didn't just beat Arizona. Like, that was it wasn't like they were down 20 and came back in some sort of miracle. They were competitive in that game the entire time. And we go back to what kind of triggered this conversation about Oregon State was they blew out USC. There have been teams that you would think walk out in the court with more talent, and Oregon State's been very competitive with. So, league play is crazy across the board, but none more so maybe than the Pac-12. And we thought it was Arizona, Colorado, and searching for another team. And now there's a whole jumble of teams at the top.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about this before, and yet another disappointing performance by Colin Boswell. Starting point guard goes for a goose egg again. Yeah. I mean, it's just every game now, Doug. And he was so good that first game against Duke at Cameron in a big atmosphere. And now it's just kind of like you're expecting, hey, is he going to turn this thing around? But again, I think he's the key to their team. If he doesn't play well, Jaden Bradley's really not a true point, not a guy who can give him a lot on the offensive end. And they kind of need that right now. Caleb Love was pretty good last night, but this Arizona team right now has not even played like a top 20 team over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't think Boswell played that well this summer with USA Basketball. And then, as you point out, early in the year, he looked great at Duke. But we talked about this. The hardest moves you're going to make in basketball are changing from assistant coach to head coach. That 18-inch move is a huge move. And when you move up the scouting report, when you're at the top of the scouting report, completely different sport when people are trying to take you away. And that's like the MO on Arizona. You take away Boswell, you take away a lot of their energy, and he's just out there kind of playing. He's not creating shots for himself and for others, and that really hurts Arizona's spirit. But the other part to it is their defense hasn't been particularly good. Now, part of it is how they play. You play with two big guys a lot. You're going to run the risk of getting stretched out. But when you're not getting great production from the point, and defensively you're a little wonky because you're playing more bigs and they're spreading you out. And then, Jordan Pope, the little point guard from Oakland originally, just kind of lit him up last night. So it wasn't just bad on offense, bad on defense as well. That's where Boswell and those guys are really hurting you. Disappointing, to say the least, from Arizona so far in Pac-12 play.
Yeah, maybe they miss Kirk Kriisa. Who knows? But Arizona, I think, will get it back going, Doug, the second half of Pac-12 play. And listen, all that matters realistically for a team like Arizona is going to be, are you peaking at the right time, right? If you're going to go through your downswing, go through it right now and peak towards the end of the season, start to figure it out. They're going to need Boswell to figure it out. They're going to need Umar Ballo to be better. And again, Umar Ballo is not the Umar Ballo we saw at the first half of last year. That's not fair. That's not what he's going to be, but he's got to be better than he was last night. More of an interior presence, a guy that you can throw it to on the block and he can score. That's not really what he is. But again, Arizona losing to the worst team in the league. And that's what Oregon State is. Let's face it. They're the worst team in the league.
Yeah. I mean, well, we're taking Cal out. We're not. I mean, there have been times when UCLA looked like the worst team in the league. They played better. Okay. I mean, USC, are they great? Okay, that's fine. I would say what's interesting is you look at Arizona's domination over Wisconsin, who I'll see tonight, who's got an outside shot to win the Big Ten. You look at their domination over Duke, who of course has looked fallible. They just lost at home this week to Pittsburgh, and so some might say, well, how good are those teams? I think that's part of it. I think part of it is who Arizona had coming back this year, but I think a good portion of also is styles make the fight. Right. And those smaller, quicker teams that spread you out and shoot a lot of threes, that's the way to beat Arizona. Whereas if you try and line them up and pound them the way that Wisconsin did, like that ain't going to work. So I think some of this is the style. Some of this is people figuring them out. Some of this is shutting down Boswell. And some of this is Arizona was a little bit ahead of the curve at the start of the year with so many of their returners. And even, you have a new two guard as your leading scorer. He still played a lot of college basketball. Those are ahead of teams with younger players who are now starting to catch up.
All right, let's move on to our power rankings, league power rankings. And today, the ACC, a league that is down this year. I mean, absolutely down. You just mentioned Duke. They've been good, not great. Carolina's been the biggest surprise of the league. Maybe not that they're number one on my power rankings list, Doug, but they're clearly number one. I think we thought like Duke might be number one, or it's Duke and Carolina 1A and 1B. But to me, there's no question right now that the Tar Heels are the best team in the league. I'm still giving Duke the nod at number two because when they're healthy, and they got Roach and Mark Mitchell back, and Tyrese Proctor looked terrific last year, we've talked about their upside is probably higher than the Tar Heels. But to me, that's a clear-cut number one and two. And then I think, honestly, Doug, after that, it gets interesting. I've still got Clemson at three, but you could put Clemson, Wake, Virginia. Miami's been disappointing, but maybe they get it going. Not a lot of separation on a three all the way down to like 10 or 11.
Well, here's what's interesting. I look at your list, and you have Georgia Tech at 13, which I think is where I have them as well. And what are Georgia Tech's two wins? They beat Clemson on the road in overtime. And didn't they beat Duke way back when, right? At home, they beat Duke at home. So and the point is, Louisville, who's a clear 15, they've beaten Miami at Miami. So it makes part
of it. And Notre Dame beat Virginia. And Notre Dame beat Virginia.
So and Pittsburgh just beat Duke at Duke. Right. So the bottom teams that we all agree, based upon how they played all season, are the bottom teams. And yet, outside of Carolina, everyone is beatable in this league. And, Florida State obviously got a couple guys eligible once the two-time transfer. So they're a little bit different now, a little bit better than they were in the non-conference. Syracuse has played better of late, but, they're still paying penance for the non-conference. Yeah, this is I guess a three-bid league. It could be 3, it could be 5 or 6.
It'll be more.
The problem is
it'll be more than 3. Doug, it's going to be more than 3 by default because you got to round out 68 teams. So they're going to end up getting, I would say, 4 at a minimum. I think they have to. I don't know who the fourth is going to be, but to me, Carolina, Duke, and Clemson, even though Clemson went in that slide, I think those 3 are in good shape. I think out of Wake, Virginia. I mean, and the other thing is, Doug, listen, one of these teams could easily win the ACC tournament. It's not like, again, Duke or Carolina are a lock to win the ACC tournament. You could see Miami getting hot. Miami, as we discussed yesterday, is as disappointing as almost any team in the country because they were a Final Four team that returned some key pieces. I want to know where you had the Hurricanes and if you still think Miami can make a move in this league and actually make some noise.
Okay, so let's take a look at my list. Remember, this is a Miami team that's lost 4 of their last 6 games. I have them at 8 just because I just don't know what to do with them. They just lost at Syracuse on a buzzer shot, so I put them behind Syracuse. They play Pittsburgh at home tomorrow. right? A Pittsburgh team that comes in hot. So we'll see if they can kind of climb that ladder. Virginia's been all over the board. Clemson's been all over the board. There's an older team. So do I think they can still make some noise? Yeah. I mean, remember, they still have to go to Carolina, still have to go to Clemson. They got Carolina twice. So there's still some big scalps out there for them. They have Duke at home. Good wins for them to get. But, let's look at their lack of consistency. Regardless of whether or not they've been healthy or not, this is a team that lost to Louisville at home. This is a team that lost to Wake Forest, Louisville, Florida State, Syracuse. Those are their last 4 losses. Okay, so you're losing to the middle to bottom of the league. So are they capable? On paper, yeah, but something's wrong with this team if they can't beat the bottom teams in this league, especially at home. Again, I'm not asking you to win every road game. I'm realistic. We see everybody lose road games in college basketball. Bro, losing at home to the likes of Louisville, and we saw what they looked like against Colorado, where they were beaten by 30 by Colorado. It's not a cohesive team. It has some good pieces, but something's missing there.
Yeah, the things we can agree on are Notre Dame and Louisville at the bottom, Carolina and Duke at the top. Yeah. My biggest question, not necessarily for this year, Doug, but we talked about the ACC being the best basketball league in America. Obviously, we know with realignment, everything's changing. But look at, again, Duke, Carolina, or Duke and Carolina. They're always going to be good for the most part. Clemson, Wake, Virginia. Is Tony Bennett lost his fastball with the new age of pay for play and the portal and all that? Miami, Larinaga's getting up there in age. How much longer is he going to be able to keep this going at a high level? Do you have faith in Mike Young, who we love as a coach, as a ball coach, but he hasn't really been able to get it done the last couple of years in Blacksburg? You got Red Autry. Leonard Hamilton is close to retirement. Kevin Keats has been okay. Jeff Capel was a year away from getting whacked.
Yeah. Go ahead. Well, okay, let's go through it, okay? You're generally judged as a league by the top of your league, right? So Carolina has returned to supremacy where most people think they belong. Duke has very talented, yet to kind of figure it out. But they're still one of the elites in college basketball despite this past week and despite some uneven performances. Where this league has fallen off is the other traditional powers. And, you talk and you have coaching changes that changes dramatically. Okay. Right. And then, you have Syracuse, Louisville, Virginia. I think Virginia is probably hurt the most by this new world order, right? It's hard to get transfers into Virginia.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, listen, Virginia's the one, again, that it's changed the most because of Tony Bennett's philosophy, how he evaluates, how he develops players. But you've got a lot of changes coming in the league. As I said, I mean, Leonard Hamilton and Jim Larinaga are not going to be there for long. You got Red Autry coming in, Damon Stoudemire coming in. Kenny Payne's going to be out after this year. We can agree on that. Micah Shrewsbury, can he get it going at Notre Dame?
Well,
Virginia's been consistent, Doug. That's been the thing. We've known Virginia every year has been in that top 3 for the most part. So, you got to get that third deal.
I think – okay, so a couple things. What is will we say the Big East is a better league now than the ACC?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. 100%.
Okay, so why? Okay. One, they've invested in some big name coaches, and 2, because they're basketball only schools, okay, the biggest push of their resources go there. So what happens at, let's say, a Virginia, okay, you're already dealing with the fact that legit academic institution, you got to have grades, and it's hard to get grad transfers in and transfers in already. Okay. Plus, that's not really how they're built, right? They're built on retention and building a culture and improving year after year. So it's going against the core. But the bigger thing is Virginia wants to be competitive at football. It's important for them to be competitive at lacrosse and soccer and all of these other Olympic sports. And the difference between that and, a Providence, that and a Xavier, that and a Butler, okay, who they don't have the depth of resources that Virginia has. But you have, and this is a real thing, a lot of people that are really well accomplished alums of Stanford and Bandy and Virginia and Northwestern, they're like, I'm not giving a kid money with no ROI. Like, that's not what it's about. They start. So you have that. Then the people that will give money, they're like, you just call me about football and about lacrosse and about rowing. Now you want me to write a check for basketball? Yeah, you keep calling me again. Right. So whereas for, the reason Creighton on paper had a better roster was they had more money because you only those same people to call. You have fewer people to call, but there's only one focus, and that's basketball. So that's like a Virginia on the micro. That's what happens on the macro. For the league, like, again, you have private schools. They're trying to be successful in a lot of areas. They don't have the depth of resources. And again, in this new world order, it's a very scary and murky place to be, because if they were like the Big East schools where they didn't have football, I think they could be more competitive in basketball in terms of recruiting because of the amount of money that's out there. But you have to spread it out over football, and that actually hurts basketball more in these days.
All right. We both wrote it this weekend, seen some pretty good upsets. Where is the best place to watch a game? Coming up, we both give you our picks. Goodman versus Gottlieb. All right, welcome back. Goodman versus Gottlieb. Look at this scene in Corvallis last night where Wayne Tinkle, Oregon State, stormed the court. Jordan Pope hit the buzzer beater to knock up number 9 Arizona. This is why we love college basketball, Doug. Look at this. Awesome. All right, so it got us thinking, what are the top 3 college basketball venues to watch a game? Doug, I'm going to start. Fog Allen. Okay. I'm going there a week from tomorrow. Houston at Kansas. I just feel goosebumps. Whenever I walk up to Fog Allen, obviously James Naismith invented the game. Bill Self, Kansas, the way the building is, it's loud. The students, there's nothing else there that matters. And, well, football matters a little bit, I guess, now, but it sucked for years. I'm going Fog Allen number 1. Are you with me?
I am as well. There's something special about that place. The level of dominance, the level of noise, noisiest place ever. I mean, I'll be, if I'm really honest, the place I played is better, but there's no way I can put it on this list because, it's kind of a morgue right now, an Oklahoma State. But I'll put KU 1. I have Duke 3rd, and my number 2 is actually New Mexico. This is just a place to watch a game. It's awesome. And the pit has a historic significance, of course. That's where Jim Valvano was looking for someone to hug. We've seen so many great NCAA tournament games there. You have the altitude, which affects people. The blue hairs, the old people are nuts. I mean, New Mexico is legitimately, when they're good, that's as good a place as you're ever going to go to watch a game. And outside, it looks like a Costco. Like it's just a box. Yeah. But you step inside, and they redid it about a decade or a little bit more than a decade ago. They took out some seats. It's like 14,000. It's a perfect venue. And look, like, I think Butler's obviously great. The Palestra's amazing. I would say in terms of neutral site venues, probably the best is Madison Square Garden. You and I would agree. And then, anything in Indianapolis is usually really good because of the fans. And, I don't know, I forget, it's Bankers Life now, whatever they call the one downtown where the Pacers play. That's a really good neutral site one. Purdue should be on anybody's list. Iowa State is not great because of anything other than the fans. They show up every night and they're super loud. You can kind of go through. We saw Gonzaga last night. The Kennel is an amazing place. San Francisco, historic venue. They just redone.
Cameron yet? Have you talked for like 2 minutes and you haven't mentioned Cameron?
But I look, and I've been to Cameron now 3 times, and this year on radio I'll call Duke Carolina, and it's great. But again, like, I think there's a lot that are at that level, and Duke's magic level in terms of home court advantage. We haven't seen it as much recently. I don't know what it is. If it's not K, if it's not there, probably when Zion tore his shoe up, that was the last crazy Duke game. Because even the one they lost 2 years ago, that was Mike Krzyzewski's last game as head coach. They lost North Carolina. It wasn't because Carolina wasn't seen as that good. Maybe Duke wasn't. Right. I don't know. It wasn't the same like 1 versus 2. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. But it was so shocking. That was part of that one. It was just so surprising. Everybody was in disbelief. I'm going to add one more. Indiana Assembly Hall, when it's going, when the Hoosiers are really good, or even pretty good.
But you had it ahead of Purdue? You had it ahead of Purdue?
Only because
I'm surprised by that.
Because I could see my daughter. Only because I could see my daughter. It gets the tiebreaker over Purdue. That's it.
Okay.
My favorite venue.
I have an underrated venue. Okay. Have you been to SMU? Have you been to SMU?
Never.
So they redid Moody again, probably about a decade ago. It was built similar to Gallagher Iba where I played. Only they didn't add seats; they took them out. It's like 7,000 seats. Trust me, if they get that thing going, and Rob Lanier's doing a nice job when they play in the ACC, like that's a cool venue. That could be the hardest place to play in Texas. Texas Tech has become very good. Right, I think Baylor's new place is going to be really hard to play because it's only 7,500 seats.
Doug, you know what's good?
What?
The old dunk tomorrow. Tomorrow at 12:30.
That'll be it.
Tomorrow at 12:30, I'm gonna be there. And Ed Cooley walks back into Providence. And if you aren't paying attention, pay attention. The game probably won't matter. I think Providence will blow them out. But the welcoming committee for Ed Cooley to Providence is going to be absolutely insane at the level of Chris Beard when he went back to Lubbock that you and I were at a couple of years ago. All right, let's go through our picks. Let's get through 3 of them. All right, 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Okay. Carolina, number 3 now, goes to Tallahassee and plays Florida State. I'm calling it now, Doug, the upset. The Noles win this game. I think Carolina comes in feeling themselves. I honestly think Florida State's going to pull it out. Primo Spears with a big game here tomorrow.
I'm going to take North Carolina because what's impressed me about this team is their defense, which they can carry on the road with them, and they've had just enough offense. I think the offense will get better. I think Carolina wins.
Kansas, number 7 against in Hilton, where you said the students are great. 23 Iowa State. I'm going with Iowa State here. I think it's going to be a close one, a grinder, a game in the low 60s, but I'm not betting against Iowa State at Hilton.
I'm going to take Iowa State, little Hilton Magic. They're great not just because of the students. They also have the blue hairs. I don't know if you see my social media page where you have the Jim Carrey lookalike doing this, doing that.
So good. So good.
It's obnoxious, but it works in college basketball.
All right, next one. Big one in the A-10. Number 16 Dayton, undefeated, 6-0 in the A-10, playing the other undefeated team, Chris Mooney's Richmond Spiders. What do you think? Can Richmond pull off the upset?
How good a story is this for Chris Mooney, who I have arachnophobia. That's what I was doing right there, right? Scared of spiders. It's a great story for Chris Mooney, who had to take time off of coaching last year because of health, and now he's done an incredible job. Also, sneaky tough place to play in Richmond. I'm going to take the Spiders to beat Dayton.
Yeah, Mooney had heart surgery last year and is feeling much, much better and doing a great job with that team. All right, listen, thanks for joining us this week. Another week, Goodman versus Gottlieb. I'm out of our city. I need some tissues, and I need my warm jacket to go back to the Northeast. It's not going to be fun. We'll see you next week, Goodman versus Gottlieb.